kind of quarterback, because I would love to hear from everyone in the room, and have a chance to chat with them. So if you don't mind, I'll make a little. I just want to talk to Meredith a little bit, just to kind of break the ice. But Meredith, I just want to first of all tell you how much I love your voice and your presence, and the way you lead worship. I mean, I've never met you. I just kind of, sense the presence of God when I listen to your voice, but it is electric, let me tell you. And I just, I don't know. I just want to say that. And I want to also say that I'm just remembering this morning it's probably 7 or 9 years ago. I remember I got an email from one of my arrangers at the time, Keith Everett Smith, who I think you probably know from back in the day. And he was just like, Ryan, there's this girl in our church, and her name is Meredith, and you got to hear her voice because she has an anointing on her voice, and she's going to go somewhere. And it's, that was kind of before you sort of got into the, wider world that you've been in. But I'm just really encouraged to see how God used you, and so I'm just thrilled to be able to talk to you.
I appreciate you saying that.
Morning.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So, and maybe just a couple of minutes, could you give me the nutshell of, how you got to be here? Because I think 7 or 9 years ago you were at Saddleback, right? Could you give me, the 3-minute sort of flyover of Meredith in the last 10 years and how you landed at Harvest Bible Chapel?
Yeah.
Actually, you started at Liberty University.
That's right.
And, I was there teaching there, and of course Liberty always loves to say that Meredith, got her roots here. And so why don't you take me from Liberty up to where you are today, just in 3 minutes, because I'd just love to know.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I met Keith at Liberty, and we were on the same worship band, so we led worship together a lot. He produced my very first album. We did a little tour the summer after I graduated from Liberty. But in the spring of my senior year, which was in 2005, I was leading worship for one of our chapel services, which is what I did every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Wednesday night, Sunday morning, Sunday night, because I was on the campus praise band, and that was what we did. We led worship for the student body, and so it was just a normal Monday convocation, and we had different chapel speakers every convo, and that particular day it happened to be a guy named James McDonald, and I'd never heard of James before. All I knew is that when he got up on stage to preach, he was a little bit intimidating. He was this big guy with a really big, boomy voice, and he called out this kid on the front row for not having his Bible in chapel, and it was in front of 4,000 students. And so, I sat up a little straighter and made sure my Bible was visible. And the next day, my friend Johnny Moore, who works at Liberty, was like, "Hey, Meredith, James McDonald wants you to call him." And I was like, "What in the world?" But I have my Bible, why does he want to talk to me?
Yeah.
And but I called him, and I just remember, I was so scared because, I didn't know what he was going to say, and, I didn't know what in the world was going on. So I called him, and he just said, Meredith, I didn't even get to meet you yesterday. I only saw the back of your head, but when you started singing, the whole room changed, and I just believe that God has anointed you to lead worship, and would love to see if you would fit at Harvest, and would you come and just see if this could be your home." And so a month later, my dad and I flew up to Harvest, and it took me about a year, but I finally moved up here after coming up once a month and joining with the team and leading worship. But I remember, when I first came to Harvest and being a part of a service here, and the team let me sing on with them, I just couldn't believe how, I'd never been in a church like Harvest before. And the thing that struck me was, this is a place where I know I would grow more than I ever have in my entire walk with the Lord. And it's true. And I've been here, fast forward 7 years later, a husband and 2 kids. Our family has grown more than we ever have before. And so just really thankful to be a part of what God's doing here at Harvest.
Wow. Well, that's a great story, great testimony, and all of us who are listening in hope to just get a little spillover from you and your team and just the whole culture that you guys have established there. So next, if I could just make my way around the circle, I'm envisioning you guys, you know. So I don't know if Jacob's sitting next to you, but Jacob's the guy that changed. Yeah, he changed your last name, and apparently you're not really Meredith Andrews. You're Meredith something else, right? So,
that's right. Andrews is my middle name.
For that.
Yeah, here he is. This is Jacob.
Okay. Hi, Jacob.
Hey, Brian. How's it going?
Hey, so I'm doing great. And so you've had a great hand, obviously, in Meredith's life, but also in producing this album. And wow, great sound, great, great to be a part of this thing. Tell me a little bit about your role in the team and how you kind of fit into the ministry here. So I'm just kind of getting to know you guys, and so help me out here. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm from Louisiana. I'm not from Chicago, and kind of had a weird migratory path up to Chicago. I went to school in Jackson, Mississippi, and then I lived in Nashville for a while, and that's how I met Meredith. And she pulled me up to Chicago when we got married, and I left the road and I became a staff person here at Harvest. And whenever I got here, I sat in the office of the guy that ran the worship department, and I said that I wanted to lead worship, and I wanted to write songs, and I wanted to produce albums. And he was like, well, have you ever done any of that? And I was like, no. And but it's a really, it's a really great testimony of the culture of our church, in that it's not a what have you done for me lately. Everybody here legitimately is an authentic flag waver for everybody, and so they've just given me every opportunity to try and to fail and to try and to fail in all things. And it's been a really, really great 5 years that we've been here, that I've been here. So I'm a worship leader here. I'm a band director. Me and another guy named Eddie are kind of in charge of the two main campuses as far as music goes. And then last album, I got to work really closely with the two producers, Paul Mabry and Jason Ingram, and got relationships with them from Meredith's projects. And then this album, I got to produce it with Jason, and it was just a really magical, wonderful experience.
Yeah, awesome. I love about you guys that, I know Vertical Church Band and Harvest Bible, you guys are all about the team. You're all about each other. It's like the core message that you have, other than that vertical relationship that you have with God, but then it's, bringing in that horizontal relationship you have with each other. So why don't you introduce me to the other guys who are in your room, and I'd like to talk to them a little bit as well. And then we'll go back to Andy and kind of talk about the album and the songs and that a little bit more. So who else is in the room there?
We've just got Seth McConkey. Dan had to run out, but Seth is one of our worship leaders. He's a songwriter. He's on the album. He's got one of the most amazing voices you'll ever hear, and an even better heart. So here's Seth.
Hey, Brian, what's up, man?
Yeah, I was listening to you. I definitely know your voice. I was listening, and it's, just want to say it's great when, the Lord, He hands out gifts, and some He gives out, knowledge and wisdom and gifts and faith, and He gave you a voice, and God bless you for using it the way you do. So tell me about what it's like being a part of this culture of Harvest Bible Church and Vertical Worship Band. Tell me about your experience in it.
Yeah, man, I've been a part of the team here for like 3.5 years, and I'm like sort of like the puppy on the team. Everyone has sort of been in worship ministry and older than me, and stages of life a little bit beyond me, and so it's really a blessing to kind of be able to no, you're not old. It's a blessing just to get to learn from them, and just to sort of okay, hey, sure, Andy, I remember like the first time he was like, here, why don't you try singing here this weekend? And I was used to singing at one of our smaller campuses. And I was like, well, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, man, I believe in you. And it's just so encouraging. And so it really helped me grow just as a worship leader. And I'm just thrilled that God's let me do it.
Yes. Amen. Great stuff. Well, thank you. Can we go back to Andi a little bit? And Andi, just want to, commend you for how you've kind of leading this whole team and really seeing the potential in others. And I think that's a message I want to help pass on to all the worship leaders and churches that are listening, to us, is just to get inspired about seeing the potential in other people and seeing the potential in building up, a team and fanning the flame of others. And so that's really the heart of what you guys are doing with your music, is it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like I think there's a danger in, especially when, like, we're a church. We're regular church guys. We, the cup that we pour into are the people who come to our church every weekend, and it's awesome to see the overflow of that in making records. But these songs were written for our church. They were written so our church could worship the Lord, and if all the records fade away, you will find us here serving our people week in, week out. And so there's no we're one church, 7 campuses, and in the same way that there's no campus that's high and lifted up above another one, there is no worship leader that's high and lifted up above another one, and there's strength in that. There's strength in plurality, and there's definitely a strength in disarming the spirit of competitiveness within a group, so that you can kind of, if you champion other people, you actually, I found that you make more ground for the Lord as a team.
Yes. Yeah.
So
awesome. Hey, I heard a rumor that you guys had written over 100 songs, or about 100 or so that were on deck that had to get whittled down to the 10 or 12 that made it onto this album. It just kind of speaks to me that there's a whole life and culture of songwriting and community and exploration of our lives through worship that went behind this album. Is that right? Let's just talk a little bit about how this, how you sort of wove the process together of what's behind the surface of just the 12 songs on this album, writing together and, kind of crafting all of this. And maybe Andi, you want to pass this around to Jacob and Meredith as well, and get some different feedback. Yeah, that's great.
So when I got to Harvest 5 years ago, we had Andi, and we had maybe 1.5 other people who were, you could consider songwriters for the church. And, Andi was talking about disarming competitiveness, and it's kind of a small sentence, but it's actually a really hard thing to do because it has to start with you. And so Andi, is over the ministry. He's the head songwriter, and he's praying the prayer and actively like, Lord, send great songwriters to our church. Anytime you're the head of something and you're the guy and you're doing it, that's a really hard thing to pray because, And so Andi began to pray that, and he began to kind of just shepherd our people. And just in the last 2 years, the Lord has done a really amazing thing in our church, and he's brought a community of songwriters that, honestly, I don't think there's another community like it in the world. My wife and I, Meredith, we've had the privilege to go down to Nashville and write with some like truly great writers, and to get to partner with some other churches and kind of see how things are done. But I can honestly say that nowhere in the world is there a group of songwriters like what we have here. people at our church, John Guerra, Tyler Miller, Andy, all these guys and many more, kind of make up our DNA. But our process is we had lots of songwriters retreats. We had somewhere invited some of our friends from Nashville, from other churches to come write. We had what we called closed-door writing sessions where it's just our church guys. And Andy led all that as far as we're just going to write. We're going to be really diligent. We're going to be really good stewards of what the Lord's given us. And then the hard part comes, which is, the meetings where we sit down and we have an honest look at the songs. And it's a really amazing thing because it's hard, you're kind of bare and exposed. Here's my heart, here's my song. And you have to be okay with, I just don't think this is going to serve our church well, or we try it out in a service and it doesn't serve our church well. And I just feel like Andy's just really nailed the whole leading our songwriters and leading our group in that.
Yeah. So there's quite a team of both leaders, and not always are people leading the songs, on the album that are the people that wrote the songs. It's a whole kind of community experience together. Why don't we go into just talking about some of the songs? We got the lyrics for all the songs on our video feed here, and so I don't know if they're in the right order or what the best order is, but I'd like to just kind of skip through and talk through every one. Some we could spend a few minutes on, some just real quickly, and you guys could maybe pass the microphone around and each person could talk about, what they know of the song or leading it or an experience with it or things like that. But just for everyone kind of listening, the thing that's so neat about this album is that these are not just, a church that was stretching to find 10 songs to get on a worship album, but they have whittled and whittled and whittled down to these are 10 or 12 songs that have just become, very electrified and passionate and really, bring in the message of your church and the Heart of Harvest Bible Church. I mean, just watching the videos, I've seen a few YouTube videos as well, and you can just tell that people are like going for it, man. They are all in. It's so encouraging to watch and to see, and so let's just start with this first song we have here, Found in You, and maybe you guys can just tell me a little bit about who wrote it and who's leading on it, and we'll just take a few minutes for each song here and kind of get a sense of the story of the progression of the songs that are on the album.
Sure.
All right?
I can start with that. Just to take a quick back step,
okay.
Just to piggyback on what you said there. I really believe that if you are a worship leader in a church trying to write songs for your church and even trying to make records for your church, you ultimately let the church decide on what the songs are that work the best.
Yeah.
And because otherwise it doesn't serve anyone's agenda but your own. And there's a bunch of, out of 100 songs that were written, there are a bunch of great songs that we tried out in the church, and once you've been staring into the eyes of people for long enough, you can kind of tell when they're giving you the thumbs down.
Yes.
And I even was as candid enough sometimes at our smaller campuses to ask the people to give me a thumbs up or thumbs down after we taught the song, because I really want them to own the song for themselves. And so what I love is that, 100 songs written and there's 10 on the record, we can very confidently say that those 10 songs were voted in by our church. It's not
right.
it's not we don't give them a congregational vote, but as worship leaders, we're looking for the songs that work, that the people own for themselves, and that they take the ownership off of us, and they say, "Yeah, I want to sing that to the Lord." That's what we want to sing. So, the first song, "Found in You," that's a song I wrote kind of in the 11th hour. with our co-producer Jason Ingram, and then a very humble and meek, slightly popular worship leader by the name of Paul Baloche. Have you ever heard of that guy?
Yes, I know that character. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So.
Oh, hey, quick kudos to him. I just have to throw this in that we should say he released an album today as well.
I know.
We already promoted his album a month ago, but let's throw a shout out for Paul.
You bet.
I know he's a great influence on you guys and your team, and maybe he'll listen to this. I don't know, but his influence stretches around many circles, doesn't it? That's great.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, out of like 4 worship leaders that I could say I've kind of watched from afar and been pastored from by afar, like Paul Baloche is one of them. My mum got saved at a Billy Graham crusade in 1988, and the first tape that she bought was a Paul Baloche tape.
Yeah.
And so to write with that guy, he's written with us. He wrote with us for the last record. He wrote with Meredith and Jacob, and but it's such an honor to have him kind of in our club, as you might say, and he's been friends with our senior pastor for a number of years. So basically, Jason and I kicked off the song. We wanted what we would call a gathering song, a song that calls people to worship God. Like a song like "Come Now Is the Time to Worship," or even like Paul's song "Hosanna." Praises rising, eyes are turning to you. That's why the first line is very intentional. Like, we're reaching out to welcome you here, fill this place again with your song. And it was a really, it was done at the 11th hour, but it was a really fun process for me. I learned a lot. I was kind of like I was definitely like the small peon worship writer, watching these guys kind of volley in a joint email. We were all in different parts of the country, and we were all just like really committed to try and make something work great. And we managed to kind of like teach it at the 11th hour and get our churches kind of sign off on it, and it turned out to be a great first track for the record.
Awesome. What a great story. Great story of the team coming together. So let's we can go in any order, but I'm just going to, go through it as we can. Strong to Save. Who wants to talk about that song and who wrote it and a little story behind it, or the heart of the message, something like that?
Sure. Seth here. I was so pumped to get to sing that song. It was written by a couple of our worship leaders here, Tyler Miller and Eddie Hoagland. And they came together and really wanted to write a song about God's strength here and now in worship. And so the idea behind it was, I think the chorus was written, they wanted to sing, like, God, you are strong to save right now in this moment. And the bridge, the lyrics, high above all death, above all life, it's just sort of just shouting out some truth about God's strength, how it's above everything that we face. And so when those guys came, I think that was actually the first song that was completed and the first song that we were singing that made the record. So I guess the oldest living song that's on the album, we were doing that one in our church over a year ago.
How long have you been doing these songs? You've been doing these songs for up to a year. They've been sort of working them out in the culture of your church. Is that right?
Yeah. When did Strong to Save come? That's for sure like the oldest one.
It was a cathedral retreat when Mountain Gap Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably a year and a half ago when that one was written. We do a bunch of different retreats with worship, some of our other worship leaders from some of our other campuses, and that was one that was downtown at our cathedral campus.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, The Rock Won't Move. So this is the next one, the title track to the album, and who was singing this, and how did this song become like the title song? What was it that captured the sort of the theme or heart behind the album?
Well, this song was kind of birthed in Tyler Miller in his heart, and Tyler is one of our worship leaders here. He's one of our newest worship leaders and an amazing guitar player and songwriter. He was on a jog one day, and he was on this jogging path, and he kind of had it was kind of like a silly thought, but it actually turned out to be something pretty amazing. He just, as he kept around this jogging path, he saw this boulder on the ground, and he was like, that rock won't move, you know. And you know, as a poet, that picture kind of spoke to him. And I remember the first week he was here at Harvest, he kind of showed us some of the songs, and he's like, and I've got this chorus, and it kind of goes like this: the rock won't move and his word is strong. And so just kind of sat on the chorus until we were doing a writer's retreat, and it was me and him and Kyle and Landon. And we started with this verse idea, and it was just talking about when the ground, you know, gives way and everything falls apart. And I very, delicately was like, you know, what would be a killer chorus for this song? Because you never want to, you know, take something that you know is something that the Lord's given to someone and just go ahead and automatically find a home for it. You know, they're the stewards of that, and you don't want to put pressure on them in that sense. But he was like, no, let's try that out. And so we started to write the song, and it really just turned into this thing that just kind of happened, and we felt like it was a download from the Lord. And we got to the bridge, and we got stuck, and then Kyle Fredericks, you know, he sings on it. He's the one that sings The Rock Won't Move. He was like, what if we put, you know, on Christ a solid rock? What if we sing part of that? And he came up with this melody, and you know, it turned into this song that just kind of speaks to our church and speaks to a lot of people that I think are in uncertain situations right now. I've just now got.
I really like. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I like how the hymn, the solid rock, is kind of fused into the song, but it's not just a segue into on Christ the solid rock I stand. But, you know, it's more artistic, and it's kind of like, I don't know what to say, fused into the song in a new, fresh way. But you know that it's kind of breathing from history, and it's a message that we've been singing for, you know, many years, brought into the song. So that's great. Why is it the title of the album? What is it? Why did you decide to call the album "The Rock Won't Move"? Is it just a theme in the church, or is there something in particular that made that an important title song?
Andy may be able to speak to this. I mean, yeah, Mary?
Just not, I've been listening to this record, Brian. In my car, I just have these, times with the Lord that are just, I'm listening to The Rock Won't Move, the song, and in the verses I'm crying, and by the end I'm shouting and about to run off the road, because, it's such an amazing truth to sing, and I think Kyle just delivers it so well. But if you listen to almost all of these songs, there's some sort of there's a theme that's running through them all, and it just talks about the strength of God. If you look at Strong to Save or Strong God, there's so many songs on this record that just reference God's strength and the fact that He is strong on our behalf and that He's strong to save us. And so, what better picture than the rock that's not going to move, and that God is our rock and He is our strength. And so, this song just stands out and just kind of is the foundation for the rest of the record, just in that theme of God being our strength.
Yeah, I really do hear that theme coming through. Hey, and Meredith, while I've got you, let's move to the next song as well. And I hate to be rushing through these because each one has such a good story, but I just want to say, I don't know who wrote Worthy, but you can tell me about it. I'm just going to tell you that when my arranger got this chart, because he was writing the lead sheet and the chart, the chords, and so when they have to do that, they kind of immerse themselves in the song and trying to listen to the melodies and rhythms and chords. And so then he emails me and he says, Ryan, and I don't know if you would appreciate this or not, but he says, this song is like the next Revelation song. It is just, he was just like, you've got to hear this song. And so, and then So it's really great song of worship.
Yeah.
So this one's called Worthy, Worthy, and just why don't you tell me? I know you were singing on it, so what's the story behind it?
Well, it's funny that your arranger said that, because that's what I've been saying. I think a couple of us have ever since we heard it. I'm just honored to sing the song.
Yeah.
So because Jacob wrote it with our friend Mia Fields, and it was at a writer's retreat we had in West Virginia, and it was in a laundry room, and somehow there was like some magic going on in this laundry room, and they wrote the song and played it for us, and we just knew that like it was going to be a song for the church, and I'm just so privileged that I get to carry it, and it's one of those songs for me that like I just never get tired of singing, and maybe it's just because it's such a glimpse of heaven. It's a song that we're going to be singing for eternity, that's straight out of Revelation. And so like I think this song just kind of speaks for itself in a lot of ways, but it just points to the majesty of God and the holiness of God, and the fact that like we will never tire. Sometimes we get tired because we're limited in our capacity here on earth, but one day we will never tire of singing those words to the Lord. And I think this song is just a glimpse of what it's going to be like for us to worship God in heaven when we finally see Him. Yeah,
beautiful. Well, those of you who are listening, definitely if you're looking for a song, another song that's attainable and graspable by a congregation, like, there are a few songs that just kind of weave their way through the culture of our churches and around the world, and Revelation song obviously is one like that. And going back to the days of like Shout to the Lord and Come Now is the Time to Worship, and some of those just, songs that really carry a message. So this is one, and I think this next one, just we might as well keep you here for Strong God. Now, this isn't the first time Strong God has come out, but it found a place on the album again, and a really strong song. I know New Life just recorded it as well, so there's a bit of a link over there. Why don't you just remind us of a bit of how this song came about and who was involved? And it must be some cooperation between songwriters in a couple churches, so tell me about that.
So a few years back, John Egan and I, John from Desperation Band, we went on a trip to Haiti. And it was kind of crazy how it all got put together, and I'm not even sure how it did, except for the Lord's hand was in it. And we ended up in Haiti, in this little town on the border of the Dominican Republic, and we were hanging out with kids that lived in an orphanage, and we were singing songs on the rooftop, I remember, of this orphanage with them, just about who God was, just about Jesus. And we would all kind of gather around the rooftop, and John had his guitar, and we'd just start singing. And fast forward a few months, and John and I went on tour together, and the tour was really specific to just speaking to the needs of orphans and widows, and also people held in slavery, modern-day slavery, especially sex trafficking. And so we went along with our friend Tom Davis, who goes to church out at New Life in Colorado Springs, and we did this tour where we had like a time of worship, and then we talked about how God's heart is for the least of these and how the church can rise up and get involved. And so just out of those experiences, John and I wrote this song, Strong God, and it was really birthed in his heart. It came straight out of Psalm 68, and he just came to me and was like, Meredith, I just feel like we got to write a song that just starts out, Father to the fatherless, defender of the weak. Because together we had seen so much of that, and that was just kind of our mantra. It was our banner. We were just carrying that, and just the fact that God is strong on our behalf, kind of going back to that. And so anyway, we started on that song, and then he took it to Jason Ingram, and they finished it. And it's just been really cool to see how God has used it out there, and now, we're singing it here, and I'm singing it when I travel. And it's just really neat to see how God is using this song.
That's really great. I have to share this quick little story with you that relates for me. Is last weekend I was at a volleyball tournament for my 14-year-old son and I. And so I get in the car with a couple other parents who are heading. We have to go through a ferry and all this to get there. And a kind of getting to know each other, and I discovered that one of the dads, he's like 33 years old, just a, normal job kind of guy, and he had adopted a couple kids from Haiti, and he was so captured by the needs at the orphanage out there that he started this organization, nonprofit. He gathered all his friends together. They're doing fundraisers, and they've got 90 kids sponsored in this orphanage, and it's like a second job for him, just fully poured into the kids in Haiti. So I was just kind of like, wow, sometimes you just look at a person and think, oh, you're just a plumber, and I'm just a music publisher or whatever, but everyone's got this story behind them, and it was really encouraging, inspiring to me, like, man, what am I doing? I need to, so he has 2 kids from there, and he's adopting another, sister in the next couple of months, and
wow.
Yeah, definitely that word, Father to the Fatherless, Defender of the Weak, so powerful of a lyric and the heart of God. So,
Amen.
So great
That's
stuff,
awesome.
Marilyn. Well, why don't you pass the mic to someone else, and we'll talk about Jailbreak, I'm Going Free. So I like about this album, there's some songs that are so, like, crazy fun in a worshipful kind of way. I can't remember if this was the one, but there's another one as well that's real sort of 2-step clapping, and it just kind of goes all over the map of emotional, spiritual, theological expression. So this seems kind of fun, this whole Jailbreak, freedom kind of message. So tell me about that one.
Well, this is Jacob again. At the same writers' retreat, in the same laundry room where we wrote Worthy, Worthy, at the end of the day, it was me and Tyler and this writer named Benji Cowart, who we love to death. He's a great songwriter, and we had been writing all day long, and we were exhausted. And we were just kind of like, you know what, let's just try and write something fun. And I was like, if Johnny Cash were a worship leader, like, what would he want to sing, And so we started just kind of, we wrote this song that is a lot of fun to sing, but if you listen to the lyrics, there's a lot of theology there, and so we just try to make I think a lot of times worship leaders think that you can't have fun in church, but that's not right. Like, we should have fun in church. It's a party, like we're redeemed. So let's get excited about it. And so this song, at the end of the day, when we were kind of like, there's nothing good that's going to come out of this writer's session because we're so tired, the Lord just kind of dropped this song in our laps, and it's been a joy to get to sing it and watch our church just kind of wrap their arms around it.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm getting some questions that are starting to come in, and I don't want to. I love talking through all these songs and hearing the stories, but I like to give our listeners some time. So do you mind if I sort of skip into a few questions, and then we'll pick up on a few of these songs at the end? You guys can just pass the mic around. Whoever wants to answer can do that. So Andrew's asking, how do you go about finding worship team members? Do you just wait for people to ask, or do you have a process for inviting people?
No, we do a pretty intentional recruitment, like maybe twice a year. Like we do big auditions at the church. We're constantly looking for people. So when people come up and ask, we direct them to a page on our website that has an application form, and everybody fills out the application form, and then we put them through an audition process. So we're just like any church. This past weekend we had people bail on us at the last minute, and we're heavily relying on volunteers. It seems like we have a big staff when you look at us all in one room, but we're 7 campuses. So once the weekend comes around, we split up, and we're heavily relying on volunteers. So we're always looking for new people.
Yeah. And you guys actually do all the same music around all 7 campuses, right? You come together, you plan as a team, and then everybody does the same thing. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Which can seem sometimes threatening to people kind of looking in from the outside, but it's not like we're saying to, like, if I plan a service and then I send Seth out to play it on another campus, like, he knows he's being sent out to play those songs because we planned them in community, but he's going to put his own fingerprint on them as he leads them.
Yeah, right, for sure. I get that. Okay, I've got another question. This one's for Meredith and Jacob. Valerie asked, my husband and I lead worship together around Virginia and was wondering what your favorite part about leading worship together as a husband and wife is.
Well, sometimes it's awesome and sometimes it's hard. Can I be honest?
Yeah,
yeah, you can be honest.
Thank you. It's amazing that God allows us to do this together. It definitely has its challenges as well, though, especially just logistics for our kids, because it's not like, hey, babe, can you watch the boys while I go lead worship? Because chances are we're both together, and chances are Jacob has to be there earlier because he's setting up and getting the band ready and all of that. So, that can be a challenge. But, yes, babe.
Well, just my favorite part probably is whenever we finish a song, and it's just this kind of great expanse of like a spirit moment where Mary's like praying out over the people. And, everybody knows, my wife is an incredible vocalist and an incredible worship leader, but she can pray. I mean, goodness gracious.
Right.
And my favorite thing is to score those prayers and to, wherever she's going with the theme of the prayer, the heart of the prayer, to go there musically as well. And those are some of my favorite moments leading worship with her today.
Well, because the truth is, I couldn't pray half as articulately, I guess, without the scoring behind me. It's all Jacob.
That's not true. You could wake her up at 3 a.m. Be like, hey, you need to pray over 4,000 people right now, and she would give a State of the Union prayer that is the most incredible thing ever.
Okay. Well, anyway. No, it's just really cool because when you're married, you know each other really well, and so you kind of just, without even thinking, you just you're in this groove together, and I don't know, but it's just amazing because we're in ministry together, and ultimately it's what we do is bigger than ourselves and bigger than any career or any even gifting that we have. It's for the kingdom of God, and the fact that we get to do the same thing together is just such a privilege.
Yeah, I think that's great. And Jacob, I have to say, I'm kind of with you. Is if I had a choice of either, being the guy that prays or scoring the prayer, I just love playing, pads and keys or things like that, and entering into the spirit of prayer and ministry, behind someone, not kind of playing over people or I've never heard of it called scoring, but I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. And a beautiful marriage of ministry. And I personally, that's my sweet spot in all my life. If I had any dream, it's just put me on a stage in a grand piano and have someone minister and pray or whatever. I just want to fill the space with the sound of worship, that ambiance. So that's great.
I know we got, but I mean, that to me is actually one of the things I'm the most passionate about, because I think a lot of people think that it serves a purpose, and it does do that, but in reality, both are forms of communication. Whenever you're alone by yourself at 11 o'clock playing piano to the Lord, you're cataloging the emotions and the things that you're communicating to the Lord. It's coming out musically, and then you can bring them back out during worship so that both you and the person praying are communicating to the Lord. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally does to me. It's good. Okay, I got some more questions. So Andrew asks, how do you gauge whether a song is working for worship or not? And then he asks, and I'm just reading it out, he says, what was the biggest dud you ever had? So there you go. These are questions from the people. They just ask them as they feel them. So you guys can answer however you like.
Okay, so first question was, how do we know when a song works or not?
Yeah, basically, so I guess we want to get a sense of, some songs are just not that great. And what's your experience with that? How do you know what is it that you're looking for? You sort of touched on it a bit before, but it's kind of that congregational test that you're putting songs through.
You bet. I mean, I think if you are, if you're the worship leader at your church and, you're kind of studying your people really every weekend, often like, the new Matt Redman record comes out and you get so excited, new Chris Tomlin record comes out and, you're listening to the songs in your car and you're thinking, this song's going to work awesome, with the people, and then it might even be working for your buddy's church, down the road. But then when you play it just doesn't work for your people. And I think that's the crucible moment right there, where you have to kind of like especially for worship leaders, like we're called to love the people more than the music, and having that mindset, I think, allows you to very quickly know whether you're serving the people above the song, because often like a great song, like there are so many great songs out there that we've tried on our church and they just don't work for our church, but I know they're working for other churches, and vice versa. I have friends at other churches, and I think to answer the question, just being honest with yourself and putting the preference of your congregation and the culture that you've built above your own personal preference of a song is so important. Usually the way that we do it is, we, on a kind of a default weekend, we sing like about 5 songs and then announcements and then an offering song while the offering's taken, and then our pastor gets up and preaches. That would be kind of a regular weekend, although we mix it up quite a lot. But we will teach the song. We'll teach a new song usually in that offering slot while people are seated, so we can sing it over them instead of ask them to engage immediately, so they can kind of internalize it themselves. Then on the second week, we'll put it into the worship set somewhere and kind of say, hey, we taught this song to you last week. Let's sing that out again. And then the third week, we'll rest it. And then the fourth week back is kind of the decider. That's when you know whether it's working on people. If you start playing that song again and they kind of are looking at you like a deer in headlights, then you know that it's probably time to rest that song,
Yeah.
But if they have that look of like, oh yeah, I'm so excited, then you know that song's going to work for you.
Yeah, really, it's part of just pastoring your church, right? And you got to know your church and your people, and what works for one church doesn't work for the other. And the same is, people are going to be watching your videos and listening to this album you guys have, and some of the songs just might not engage with their church. Everybody still has to pastor their church, and so that's right. So, okay, another question here. Daniel asks, I'm a worship leader, keyboardist at Harvest with Pastor Greg Laurie. How long does it take to write and produce a song? I was praying to see if I should pursue full-time in worship ministry music. How long does it take to write and produce a song?
Well, the writing and the producing, are 2 different processes. Sometimes the writing takes an hour, and it's just, this is the song. Sometimes the writing takes 2 years. Meredith and I wrote a song that we tried it out at church, and it went okay. And we had some good friends who know what they're doing. They're like, this is a great song, but it's not a finished song. And it didn't get finished for another 2 years. There was 8 revisions to the song. As a songwriter, you have to be willing to endure the process where, the power isn't whenever you think the song is great. The power is whenever everyone agrees, okay, this is going to work, this is going to be great. And then producing, producing the song is, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. It's whenever you basically put the meat and bones, all the different instruments, the arrangement, the sound of the song, you record it. You begin the recording process. And so that, depending on where you're at, can take, a very little amount of time or a very long amount of time. Our process is me and Tyler took all the songs and we did pre-production. That's kind of before we actually go and record the songs. We kind of get the structure, the arrangement, the key, who's singing what, and kind of maybe put the basic guitar parts down, some pads, and maybe, a musical hook. And then we took it and we started to put drums around it, and we started to put bass and kind of craft the whole song. And, I guess from the time that we started pre-production until the time we had most of the songs fully demoed out and produced, it's probably a 2 or 3 month process where we kind of lived with it and we're like, do we like this? Is this right? Is this going to work in the church?
So it's a real process for sure. Yeah. Hey, can we go back to a couple of songs? I just want to finish out with a few more songs here. I don't want to leave some out, and maybe I'm missing a really important one, and then we're going to have to kind of wrap because our time has kind of flown by. But the one song I was listening to, and I think it's this one. I'm trying to remember all of the melodies, but I just want to skip ahead to the I Will Follow song. Can someone talk to me about that one? Is that the one where you've got the kind of the guitar, acoustic guitar kind of feel to it? Help me out. I wish I had it more present. It is. I was kind of telling my son this morning that it reminded me of this band, Passenger. Have you guys ever heard of Passenger? That guy? Doesn't ring a bell? No, you have to listen to him. Anyways, he's not a Christian necessarily, but just a guy that gets up on the stage with just his guitar and really captured my 17-year-old son, and he was learning all his songs. So when I listened to this song, it reminded me of that, and what I really liked about it is just this real authentic kind of grassrootsy, feeling to it, and a great lyric, really great melody. So I think this is my favorite anyways on the album. I love the instrumentation and all of that. So there you go, a little advertisement for Passenger if anyone wants to look up that guy on YouTube or iTunes and kind of go, oh yeah, it is kind of a little like that. But anyways, tell me about I Will Follow. Let's just kind of close out with this song, and then we'll bring things to a close.
Well, that song is very near and dear to my heart. We were at a writer's retreat in Michigan, and we were on a front porch, and I'd set up a keyboard, and it was me and a guy named John Guerra, who is just the Lord led him to our church maybe right around a year ago, and he is the Bob Dylan of the church. I've never, ever experienced anything like it before. He's just a songwriter, and he just says things that we all want to say to the Lord, but he says them in a way that, it's just so new and fresh and pulls on your heartstrings. And so we were on the front porch of this place, and it was a beautiful day. We're outside. We're writing music outside. And we just kind of wanted to write a song that just said, no matter what may come, we're going to be with you, Lord. And so the song kind of leads you down this progression of, in the good things and in the bad, I will follow you. And it talks about when everything's going right, and then the final verse says, even in my death, I'll follow you. Even in my death, I'll follow you. And the reason why the song is so special to me is because it was the beginning of a friendship. John and I had never really hung out before that trip. John and I had never written a song together before that song. And that was kind of what started our relationship, which has just been, a real blessing in my life. And his relationship with all of our songwriters and all of our worship leaders has been a real relationship. And, if I can kind of tie it all into the whole album, I think that if the Lord has his hand on this, I really think it's because we love each other, and we're so adamant about promoting one another and not promoting ourselves. And always valuing the person above the music. And
beautiful. I really, really love it. I love the story. And all you guys, thank you so much for this gift that you're giving. It's to your church and to, churches that are kind of listening in, and we're very encouraged. It must be an exciting week. Is there anything special ahead with the album coming out? Is you guys kind of celebrating that as a church together? What's up in this week at Harvest Bible Chapel with the album coming out?
Well, we've actually, I feel like we've been celebrating for the last couple of weeks. We had a conference at our church last week called Harvest U, which is where basically all the harvest plants all over the world come together. So it's thousands of church leaders coming together, and we released it to them last week. So that was kind of a big launch for us, and, we were around the whole week and singing these songs all week, and it was just really cool to see that. And I don't really know. Anybody else know what's going on this week? Anything?
Yeah.
Culmination, I guess.
Yeah, man. I mean, every 6 days, a weekend service comes around. We are we're going to Popeyes.
I know.
We are.
Another celebration.
We are.
That's great.
We're so thrilled that we get the opportunity to do this, and we're so thrilled that we get to love on our people week in, week out, and continue to write songs for them and serve them. We have. Some of the guys, Seth here and Kyle, they're heading out with Jacob and Meredith and Matt Marr and on a tour. They're doing five shows around different Harvest Bible Chapels next month, and we have the third of our big men's conferences coming up in Indy. 11,500 men coming to Indy for 2 days.
Wow!
We're leading worship for that. So it's called Act Like Men, and
I don't get to go to that.
No.
And so lots of exciting things kind of on the calendar for next year too. So
that's wonderful. Well, congratulations to you all. Hey, this is normally when we do these webinars, I like to ask the people who I'm talking to pray over those of us who are listening in and being encouraged as worship leaders, pastors, musicians. So Meredith, do you mind if I just ask if you just take a minute or two and just pray God's anointing and favor and, and growth and encouragement over those of us who are listening in, and we'll just kind of carry the spirit of what you guys have really stirred up, and we want to extend that around the nation, the world. Sometimes we have people listening here, they get up at 2 in the morning in the Philippines or in Africa or whatever, listen in. So would you do that, and then we'll kind of close out that way. Thank you. All right.
Yep, absolutely. God, thank you so much for this time that we've had. Thank you that you are with us everywhere we are. God, you know every corner of the world, every person that's listening in, every need that's represented. And God, I just lift up every worship leader that's listening in right now. God, you know exactly where they are and how they're serving you. And I just pray, God, that they would not grow weary in well-doing, but they would continue to press on. They would continue to press into your presence, Lord. God, I prayed for all of us that we would seek to worship you in private long before we even set foot on stage. God, I pray that it would never become just about the music, but, Lord, it would become about letting you do in us first what you want to do in us, and teaching us how to love these people that you've placed before us and to love them well, to love them, like Andy said, far beyond the music, far more than the music, God. And, God, I pray that our desire would always be just to point them straight to you. Jesus, I pray that you would help us to do what you've called us to do it well, to be faithful where you've placed us when it gets hard, and even when it's hard to love the people that you've put in our sphere of influence. God, I just pray that you would love through us supernaturally. Lord, I just thank you for every person that's listening. I pray that you would bless them abundantly. I pray that you would be their strength and their source and their rock. God, as they continue to seek after you, to seek your kingdom first, and to serve you and to serve the people that you've placed before them. And we just thank you for the privilege to point people to you, Lord. And that's what we want to do, to get out of the way and say, look at Jesus, because you are the only one that can save us, that can rescue us, that can heal us. And so, God, we just entrust our lives to you, and we thank you for the privilege to carry your name. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Well, I think we made it through okay. First time I've ever done this with a whole group of us, and you guys were really great. Thank you for all participating and passing that microphone around and giving us a sense of each of your personalities and, a sense of the team working together. I think we got a unique flavor of that today. So God bless you guys. Go out and share these songs, and we got the charts on praise charts. We stream the audio, and encourage those of you who are listening in to share the songs around and begin to work them into the ministry of your church as you pastor your churches and find the songs that are the right message, the right melodies. Hopefully a few of these will be helpful to you. So thank you guys, and I will send you on your way into the ministry at your church and your team as you begin to prepare for the next Sunday that's just coming around the corner, okay? Thank you guys.
Thanks so much, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, bless you guys. Talk to you all later.
You too.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Okay, bye.